Hi guys, welcome to today's video. So today we're going to be looking at the rules of the C# language. This is known as the syntax. Every programming language has a set of rules that allows your compiler to translate it from human language, which is kind of the English language, to machine language. These rules are known as the syntax of the language. So let's look at the rules of C#. In the last video, I mentioned this resource which was graciously provided to us by the coding guys. Shout out to the coding guys. This is a very good summary of the syntax of C# and some other very important rules for coding with C#. I recommend reading this in addition to watching these videos to get a clear understanding of the subject. So firstly, C# is a case-sensitive language. So when you use a capital letter and a small letter, it does mean two different things. Code is usually wrapped in code blocks that start and end with curly brackets, and lines terminate with semicolons. We're going to see examples of these towards the end of the video. The other thing is variable names. So in the last video, we talked about variables and what they do. So how do you actually name them? Well, firstly, it must start with a letter or an underscore. So you can't have a variable starting with, let's say, an ampersand symbol or a full stop. It has to be a letter or an underscore. The convention is to use Pascal case for class names, namespaces, and method names, which is exactly as it is written, where the first letter of each word in a group of words is capitalized. And you should typically use camel case for method parameters and local variables, which, as shown, is the first letter of the first word in a cluster of words is small, and then each subsequent word has the first letter capitalized. Don't worry if this is unclear. It's going to get a lot clearer when we start coding, but this is the general convention for coding with C#. The other thing that's very important in C# is the dot operator. It's known as dot notation and is used for directly accessing the methods and attributes of an object. In our very first video, we learned about object-oriented programming, and we got to understand that a method is more like a verb, the action of the object, and an attribute or property is more like an adjective, a description of the object. So the syntax for accessing these things with the dot notation would be object.property or object.method with brackets. So for example, if we wanted to access a dog's color, we would say dog.color. And if we wanted to access the dog's method of barking, we would say dog.bark with two brackets. Always methods have to end with brackets. But if there's another data type that needs to go into the method, so we want it to bark woof, we will put that within the brackets. It's going to get a lot clearer as we start to code, but it's good to know the general rules of the C# syntax. Finally, let's look at comments. So comments are very important in coding. I don't mean these kind of comments. I mean comments for coding. So comments are used to explain code and make it more readable. It's used by a lot of programmers to just explain what each line of code is intended to do. It can also be used to stop a code block from running. So if you have a line of code or a cluster of lines of codes that are giving you problems during debugging, you can comment it out, as it's frequently said, to actually stop that code block from running so that you can find out where the problem lies. If it's a one-line comment, it's indicated with 2 forward slashes, but if it's a multi-line comment, like a short paragraph, then it's a forward slash with a star to start and a star forward slash to end. So you can think of it almost like wrapping it in a forward slash and star, where the first one is like the open bracket and the last one is like the closed bracket. But it's basically inverting what we started with, which is the forward slash and the star, and ending with a star and a forward slash. So in practice, this is how it would look. Lines 37 to 38 have a single line comment. Lines 44 to 42 have a multi-line comment. Now I know what you're thinking, this is actually a single line comment. But if this programmer in the future wanted to add more comments to that section, they would not have to change anything. They would just continue writing lines of comments between lines 41 and 42. You'd also notice that lines 44 to 48 all end with a semicolon. There's also a comment on line 45 where it says make label area 20% of width. It's trying to explain why that line of code was written. You can also see the use of camel case in the instance of set width and set position and on slider event. And you can also notice that there are no curly brackets here. This is because we don't have any classes defined. These are all variables. And so we don't have any groups of code that need to function as a unit. I hope this clarifies a little bit. Now that you've learned a little bit about commenting, please leave a comment below. It supports my channel a lot when you subscribe, when you like, when you leave a comment. Thank you so much for watching. We have more videos to come. Don't forget to subscribe.